Hey, Dr. Gitau, good morning.
Good evening.
Oh, good evening over there. I forgot that it's 9 hours. I forgot that part.
Yeah.
It is 9 hours. So we will without delay, we will go ahead and get started because again, this meeting is getting recorded. And Cher, thank you for helping us with the recording and editing to be able to put it on the website and on WhatsApp so that we can all follow it.
Great.
And Cher, if you don't mind, can you put that that website address on the chat so anybody can take it and then check things out afterwards, please?
I'll do that now.
All right, thank you very much. All right, everybody, good morning. This meeting, I was expecting to have more people attend, but usually with Saturday mornings, some people just, it's just difficult for a lot of people, but I think we're having the meeting recorded, so it's going to be good for people to access it afterwards. Like I said, she's going to put it on the website and on WhatsApp. Then once we have it there, we can, then the one from last time as well about Dr. Shoika talking to us about mental health in our community. So that would be good. All right, let's get started here. Let's, hey, Yinka, you want to pray briefly for us before we get started here, please?
Okay, let's bow in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this gathering this morning that allows us to come together and share ideas and discuss issues that can bring glory to the kingdom. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, without further ado, and Dr. Susan Gitau doesn't need any introduction. She is one of us, and she's currently in Kenya. She does so much work. She teaches for the African Nazarene University, but she does a lot of other work. She has a Susan Gitau Foundation. She does a lot of private practice. She's done a lot of work in the area of trauma. She's worked with military. I don't know what she doesn't do. She does pretty much everything. She's a counseling psychologist. She is a leader in the field. And I think in our community, I always give us these three legs. We're standing on three legs. We are African, we are counselors, we are Christian. Many of us are Christian. Meaning that doesn't mean that somebody who is not Christian cannot join our group, but those are the three legs we're standing on. We're Christian, we're African, and we're counselors. So, and I'm going to let her just give us what she has today. We're going to be talking about trauma. She's an expert in trauma in so many ways, and she's done a lot of research, a lot of work in the area of trauma. And there was a tragedy that happened in Kenya a few months ago. They're still uncovering all of it, and how she's able to handle that and what she's doing in that regard. I want her to tell us about that, and then hopefully will prepare us to manage and handle trauma in our community and how some of the things that she's done, and maybe if there's any way we can get involved with what's going on in Kenya, we want to get involved. Okay, Dr. Gitau, I want to hand it over to you. Thank you, sister, for being here.
I was still muted. Thank you so much, Dr. Goris. It's nice to see my sister Yinka. The rest, I can't see their videos, but it's okay. I know very soon we will put a face on maybe our wall, and we will populate our website with these faces. So thank you for asking me to share what is going on in my country. We've had the worst of the massacre, especially through radicalization by an individual. So we have a pastor here called Paul Mackenzie, and running a church at the coast of Kenya, and communication society in Kenya with the law, but he always used to be bailed out because he started by asking the followers not to go to school, not to go to the hospital, and he had conflict with the law, but he went out because I think they could not get enough evidence, or matters like you're saying in Africa, matters of religion, spirituality are still very foggy. And so people don't like to get into something that they don't understand. So he would always get out. But this time around, it's shocking because some few children ran away and a few adults. And the way now they were emancipated, they said what was happening in a forest called Shakahola. So this priest or this pastor bought a large piece of land for himself, 800 acres at the coast of Kenya, and how he convinced the followers to all come there from all corners of the country, the educated, non-educated. They went into that ranch, and they were each given a portion, and they had makeshift houses. And from January this year, he told them they will start fasting. And so the death was supposed to come through fasting. Starvation, that is the right word. So far we have about 256 bodies that have been buried. We have many other missing, and we have some that were rescued, and now their government families don't even know whether these were their relatives, but they just know their relatives went missing, and they used to follow that church. And so the families around the coast and spread out in the country, there's a high level anxiety, because since this incident happened, no DNA results have been released, but from next week they might start releasing a DNA result for some of the bodies. So they are doing the exhumation by maybe schedule. So they have done the first one, now they have done the second one. They stopped for a while, now they went second time, they have stopped. But what has come out is very, very horrifying, because they are seeing bodies of children who have been sexually violated before being killed. It appears like there was some shrine somewhere where sex orgies were happening. So the list of the way they were going to die was children to die first. So if you also had given birth, you don't breastfeed. So the child dies. Then the next people who are supposed to die if you Google Shakahola Massacre in Kenya, you will even find more details, maybe as per now. So what is making me feel sad is that even today I received a call. Our country is facing a lot of economic constraints, especially with the shifting of the government. So it's like no one is thinking about their psychological well-being. The people around Shakahola, no one is really thinking about the families that are camping at the coast. Not because maybe they want, maybe they don't know how, because that's a big number of people who've died out of radicalization of such a manner. So the government is also overwhelmed, the community is overwhelmed. But I know there are some counselors that I work with who are really willing, like, to go there and give, even psychological first aid they've not received. Even the community around there, you can imagine. So sometimes it's difficult. Today I was called by one of the people who is working alongside the government, the Ministry of Health, and said they really need data on what is happening in the minds of the relatives of these people. So that data that we call baseline survey, because we might have other serious situations or psychological distress if these people are not given timely psychological support. So, but they are not promising anything. That place from where I am in Nairobi is about 600 kilometers. So you either fly or you go by road, or you go by rail to Mombasa, city called Mombasa, and then to Malindi, and then inside in the interior. So the nearest town to live is called Malindi, if any one of you has come to Kenya. So I have that burden. I have counselors willing to go. Counseling in my country is not the way like it is in the US and other countries. Counselors, especially who are private practitioners, they rarely get clients who can pay, because counseling is yet to be embraced in Africa and especially in my country, because they think you are just talking with someone. So, and the government has not fully recognized counseling in terms of licensing. So we are still fighting for licenses. What we do have in this country are professional bodies that accredit. Like I joined 2001 is when I joined to be a student member. I have grown through the ranks up to the senior counselor supervisor. But that is a professional body like APA or BACC or any other you've heard of, but it's not the government. So the government, especially the Ministry of Health, we have a big fight, because they think because dealing with health, we might go and start sharing their budget. And so they cannot manage the Shakahola challenge right now. So even me being called to see whether I can support is because they know recently we concluded a big study in the nation on the mental health issues and psychosocial needs of our learners since COVID-19 hit the country. So I remember I had asked Goris, is there something we can do as Global African Mental Health Network so that we can start maybe small impacts, maybe like how many counselors can we support? I know I had sent you a proposal in a budget we had given to the ministry. Did you receive it, Professor Goris? Okay, right, yeah. And I was thinking out of that, we can look at what we can put together. I know I can try and get maybe the university transport to go all the way. Maybe that's a 33-seater bus. Maybe where to stay again, that might be, even if it's just an impact like for 1 week. Because right now I was feeling I'm a bit free. I could have made it. I have one family I have taken on board, one only, and it's because when I was called to the national TV, I went with a sister to a brother who is arrested alongside this pastor, and his wife was rescued. She's a state witness. The children are gone, 5 of them. So I am supporting her children, and I'm thinking next week, God willing, coming week, if I go to Kisumu is now the western side of Kenya. That is where the family had come from. I might see whether I can have a way I can go to their homestead, because she lives in Nairobi. The brother was in Mombasa with his family, but the parents are actually having a lot of mental anguish, and they are on the other side of the country. So why is there such laxity from the government? I've told you, matters of faith, people don't like to argue with them. So it's like they're also saying they took themselves there. But for me, from where I sit, every one of those people that died in that Shakahola forest had a story, and a sad story. Because in Africa, you will find majority of people are not in the church because they really want to grow in terms of their faith. You will hear them when you say, let's pray. Someone is praying for food. Someone is praying for school fees. Someone is praying for maybe fights to end. It's a need. So for me, even if it's not verified, if they were to talk, it is a need. Like the brother to this lady I am helping and her family, he was totally immersed in addiction with alcohol and chewing of miraa. But now he goes to this church and he's threatened by this pastor. He's told, if you don't stop, I saw you dying. I saw you in my dreams. So he actually stopped. It's what we can call aversive therapy. So he stopped drinking. And the wife said, if my husband has stopped drinking, then I have to bring all my family here. This is the church. Can you imagine? So the brother had that need to get out of addiction. And here he comes, it seems to change out of a threat. Nobody knows that. But now he brings all the family and all the children, and the children, when the DNA results get out, can you imagine how many are preparing these people for the DNA results? It's not happening. It's something we can do as a family, even small, including even going and giving that psychoeducation of how trauma affects people, how the brain is affected, and probably small things they can do, like the mindful self-compassion exercises and how that can reduce. To me, that would be something we'll have done in Kenya at this time if we can. Thank you. Unless there are questions.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I'm actually here with my mother-in-law. She's right.
Hello.
So.
Nice. Wow.
How are you?
Fine.
I work closely with some people that have trauma because the Fulani have come into their village in northern Nigeria, and they have seen their village burned. One young man, it's just a miracle his father lived. And you can tell he almost feels guilty that he is alive and that he survived. But you know, I'm not a trained counselor. I'm just a missionary. How do I help this young man with trauma? He's very intelligent. He's planning to go to the U.S., but his trauma hasn't really been addressed. You know, I'm very close to him. I'm compassionate with him, but I don't really have the tools that I feel like I need to help him. That's just one example. I know several students from West Africa Theological Seminary that I could tell you other stories of people that have gone through trauma. So if I had some tools, or you know, I try to find things online or whatever and send to them that I think might be helpful to them. But if you have any materials on trauma you think could be helpful to these kinds of people, I have maybe 6 or a dozen people that I am fairly close to that I would be happy. They have computers, they're trained, you know, I could just share this material with them. So I don't know.
She was Dr. Gitau was in Lagos like a few months ago.
Wow.
So I wish I could connect with you guys. But anyway,
I wish you could have seen the seminary, because we do have pastors and even staff. You know, one of our staff that has been with us 25, 30 years, he just lost his wife to trauma and he's disabled. So I'm sure he too is going through a kind of trauma. So
okay, so let's allow, I don't know, you want to maybe allow other people to make any comments, then we can give it back to Dr. Gitau to respond. I don't know, anybody else, any other thoughts? We're talking about basically the SHAKAHOLA massacre. And if you look at that, I don't know what kind of impact that's having on not just the country, but the church, especially. How is that impacting everything? And as therapists, when you send a therapist there, what are they going to be addressing? How are they going to go about the work that they do? Which for us, all of us, actually most of us here, almost every one of us here is a therapist. So how would you handle that given the circumstances in which they are, and how would you handle the trauma? Maybe you go with that. Anybody else has any comments? You can go ahead and make it.
I'm sorry, I have one other question. In Nigeria, I noticed that many church leaders have the power of God.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever they say, whatever they tell their people to do, they will do. And to me, that is like the foundation behind this trauma.
Exactly.
So is there any way we can address this underlying problem of giving church leaders the power of God? They're human beings, they're fallible, but most Nigerians that are religious give them much more power.
Kind of like Jim Jones. I was thinking about Jim Jones in 1978.
Yes.
So anyway.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes. They're just set up for this kind of tragedy.
I was actually just thinking about the Jim Jones.
Yes.
The Jonestown massacre, which happened in Guyana back in 1978. And over 900 people died in that incident. It reminds me very much of that because he did consider himself a religious leader. He used to refer to himself as the Messiah. And he promised his followers, that they would find some type of utopia in the jungles of Guyana, which of course eventually led to a mass suicide. I kept thinking about that as I listened to Dr. Susan just now. I have zero experience in working with anybody who's been involved in anything like this. So I'm interested in hearing what tools are you using and these types of things, because I've never, and I guess I should say thank God, but I have never worked with anyone who has been involved in a mass suicide or anything even closely related to this. So I'm wondering if I myself as a therapist wouldn't be a little bit traumatized coming in contact with a situation like this.
Wow.
I just wanted to know where you were from, because I know we're kind of all around the world. Are you in America or in another country?
She's in New York.
I am. I currently live in New York, but I am from the Caribbean. I'm from Antigua, but incidentally, I was raised by a Guyanese father who's from the place where this Jonestown massacre happened.
Amazing.
Yeah. My mother married a Guyanese man. He lives in Antigua. Has lived in Antigua for many years.
Okay.
But was born and raised in Guyana.
Wow.
Very close to where the Jonestown massacre occurred. So I remember hearing about this as a little girl.
Yeah. My older sister was a missionary to Guyana and St. Vincent, so kind of in that area. Thank you.
Any other comments before Dr. Gitau responds here? Any other comments, or maybe after her response, then we can kind of get more questions. So give us again. Just you heard all the questions, just and the comments. If anybody else, or you can go, and then somebody else will can comment afterwards. Okay, go ahead.
So you want me to go on?
Yes.
So I'm actually updating. The number of bodies recovered right now is 579, and they have stopped the exercise. Maybe they rest for a week, they present to the Senate, and then they resume. So I'm happy with this question you have asked about the tools to use. And if for example, Therese came here, would she go back in one piece, or she would be more traumatized? And I believe for Goris and maybe Yinka here and others who are in mental health, we understand very well about vicarious trauma, that you're not the one, but because you're dealing with people who are traumatized, they may affect you in return. And even right now, the people that are being used in Kenya, they are paid money. They are poor people. The ones that are being used to uncover and bury the bodies, they are paid like it's $10 per day. That's a lot of money in the country. I mean, yeah, $10. One body you recover, you get 10 US dollars. So, but they are not prepared, and they were not prepared to deal with that kind of trauma as well. So they also saying they cannot sleep. They are just seeing the bodies all over. So for trauma, in very simple terms, it is any situation or incident that somebody goes through in their life, and their coping mechanisms are totally exhausted. It's like the way I respond to stress, now I can't. And there is always the fear of dying in that incident, or your life is threatened. The response is you respond in horror, helplessness, hopelessness, and subsequently there is psychological distress that follows this person and seems not to come to an end. And that is why it's recommended, following an incident of such magnitude, that critical debriefing or critical incident focused therapy is given within 72 hours. But in this case, everybody, including the government, because the forest is very far away, that never happened. In fact, everybody was all over, and the whole country was in shock. Even for me, when I was told, I thought I was reading something that is not true about my country, because at the time I was in Nigeria. So the other maybe way these people respond is having the re-experiences, the flashbacks, intrusive memories. That's why some people are saying they can hear voices of children crying, who are being killed and who are brutally murdered. Even adults who seemed to run away, they were caught and killed and buried. And so there are all these horrifying stories that the ones who have been rescued are recalling. What about the ones who are listening, like you and I? They also get that kind of re-experiencing, those flashbacks. We do have the hyper arousal or hypervigilance, hyper stress, such any trigger anywhere, whether it's news on Shakahola, mention of the name, maybe mention of even the name of a pastor or even church. There are people who are easily and quickly getting hyper stressed and hyper aroused, and their life seems to come to a stop because they have high level anxieties and a lot of panic attacks happening at the moment. So there is also the avoidance. There are people who have nothing to do with the church as we are talking with you. So it's a very sad situation, because they are saying, you see, we've always said Christianity is devil worshipping, and especially at the coast, we have very many Muslims. So they're even coming out with videos to discredit Christianity as a faith. So there are people who've also stopped going to church because they are avoiding anything to do with Christianity. There are some relatives of the deceased also don't want to hear anything to do with church. There are also some who don't want to watch the news, especially the relatives who are still searching for their loved ones, because they do not want any reminders. So that's what we call avoidance. Some people are just staying like that, the way I'm telling you. Is they can't think, they look indifferent, but they have numbed. Unless somebody helps them, you don't know when it's gonna like explode. Then we have those negative recurrent thoughts and emotions. So there are people who are still hoping they will find their loved ones. There are those who are hoping the DNA results will say it's not our own people. And there are more bodies being uncovered. So you don't know if I get these results right now, will they get me my lost relative? If I don't get now, how many more months do I have to wait? And DNA results are taking actually 1 to even 2 months for the first lot. Then the second lot, you can imagine, there are people who've been waiting since they heard of a SHAKAHOLA massacre, and they know that these were followers of Paul Mackenzie, the church he called Good News International Church. So just having that wrap up, you can imagine now the fourth way people respond, recurrent negative thoughts and emotions. So you can imagine somebody staying with that emotion of anger up to now, that emotion of fear up to now, that emotion of guilt that I allowed my people to follow this, or I knew something was happening and I never said it. Even the government is so much lost at the moment because the country is totally broke. We are being overtaxed right, left. There are many chaos happening in the country. So you can imagine those people are not to be remembered in a very easy way. Yeah, wherever they are. And for me, I still believe whether they are the families of the dead or the survivors, they deserve to be supported psychologically. So what I do during such incidences, I try to assess. It's good to assess so that you know the levels of trauma, because I have done this with the military in the country, or those ones that were returning from Somalia. I just sampled one barracks, then the other barracks, they replicated. Right now, as I'm talking with you, I'm working with 100 girls, 6 years to 18 years, and I have 20 teenage mothers in one facility. Later on, the ones Goris, you hear me helping from the slum where I grew up. And what we have done, because these are children who are drawn from the streets, you know, the street connected families and children. So I assess first to establish the level of their trauma, and then intervention. And what I'm doing with the intervention, I worked with the post-election violence in internally displaced persons for my PhD thesis. And I developed an 8-stage model where you do pre-assessment, then intervention, and then post-assessment. So it's 8 stages. So there's 8 sessions that you can take someone through from that level of knowing where they are. Then I intervene, and then finding out the efficacy of the intervention. And what I'm doing is to integrate the mindful self-compassion. Why? Because this mindful self-compassion training that I had in the US, by the way, and where I get very, very many mentors that help me in that work, it is a very powerful, effective way of stabilizing the physical body. And it begins from the mind and connects with the heart. Because especially the avoidance, something has happened terribly, the first thing any human being wants to do is to forget about it and move on. But that does not help anyone, because when trauma happens, it does not go to the memory we are used to. It does not go to the memory where you did your alphabetical alignment. It does not go to the memory where you have done your master's and studied and you can retrieve. Trauma memory is very, very funny. It hides anywhere that you cannot easily access because it was never prepared for, it just not. So here you bring in the aspect of neuroplasticity, but in a very simplified practice of mindful self-compassion, where mindfulness is applied. Like Jesus, now for Christians, the way I look at it, Jesus was traumatized. He performed very many miracles for people. He healed the sick. He fed the hungry. He did so much. He gave them the word for life. But the same people stripped him naked, spat on him, and crucified him, where thugs and all that didn't matter was being placed. You can imagine now that. But he told his father that if it is your will, let me partake of this cup. And for sure, it was God's will for us to get salvation. But that pain Jesus went through, even the mother who was watching, now it's like us watching what is happening to the families in Shakahola. You get that vicarious PTSD. Like for me, every time I get a call, we always see you in such places, but I don't want to go there empty-handed. I would like to go there even if it's 1 week, where I can report I have done something that is substantial, even for that community, including even training, because you can go and train the community health volunteers with these simple tools, especially of mindful self-compassion and knowing how to assess someone who is severely psychologically damaged and make a referral for them. And so for me, I see that when it comes to mindful self-compassion, it has helped me personally in a very big way. I think I shared with Yinka and Goris some times back that if I did not do mindful self-compassion, I was giving up on doing counseling. And what I did not know is that counseling along the way in a continent like Africa, where you can't say there is a lot of value money-wise for the work you do, because maybe the ones who are told it's mandatory, you must see a therapist, or schools, they are told you must bring a report from the counselor. Rarely will you find people working voluntarily, or even the government allowing the national, what we call national health insurance fund by the government, allowing anyone to walk in and see a licensed or an approved therapist for their mental health well-being, but have been pushing on and pushing on. Because even if it's one person who says, oh, I'm moving on, like the IDPs, when I see the children that I worked with, they're in universities, they have graduated, they have jobs, I think for me, I get some consolation. But I was giving up because everybody who works with human beings, and that energy, negative energy, is what you're encountering on a daily basis. You get compassion fatigue. And once you get the compassion fatigue, you might become very cynical of the work you do. And it's like you're doing it like any other person, or like the way the police in my country do things without caring, clobbering even an old person, a lame person, without caring and having no emotional attachment to what they are doing. So for me, I have a ready-made intervention approach, which of course is published and approved. And I also have the mindful self-compassion training, which makes them how the brain is. So like my internet was a bit unstable. How the brain is with neuroplasticity. If you're able to relax the brain, it kind of tries to make alignment, whether it is with the right and left hemisphere, or what we call the three-parted brain, the limbic, the autopilot, or the stem, the brain stem, or the survival brain, and the thinking brain. Because trauma deactivates the thinking brain, the problem-solving brain, the decision-making brain. And so the one that is highly activated mostly is the limbic, where emotions are not the pleasant ones, but the unpleasant ones. And then the automaticity, that reaction without thinking. The lizard relaxation exercises that are well structured, they help the brain to have their alignment. Because what disturbs people of who survive traumatic incidents is the memories that was told in a place they cannot easily access, and have some kind of organized way of facing that stress. So for me, I plan, if I'm able to get there, I would assess the levels, and using one tool that is internationally recognized, that I also used, and easy to score and what have you. And if not making just make an assumption for sure, these people, what they have gone through. Yeah, even in simple terms, if you look at DSM-4, you say if they have any one of the following, and I guess they have every one of the 4 cluster responses. So, but getting in there and creating that small community members the best thing is to have the community volunteers. If they are empowered, 1 week is enough to go and see the environment so that one can gather information of what you're going to use as you train them, and then 3 good days of training them on mindful self-compassion, because it is the Holy Spirit that Jesus left us. He said, I am gone and I will not leave you with nothing. Of course, we just celebrated Pentecost, that I will leave you a helper, a comforter. And for me, it's making the Holy Spirit become practical in people's lives, because that breathing that we do quietly and silently, and the mind settles. The Holy Spirit loves to live in a place that has no chaos. And when the Holy Spirit settles inside of any human being, in their body, in their mind, and their spirit, they're able to see something that can take them into the future. And so it's combining psychology and combining mindful self-compassion when I worked with the internally displaced persons. Thank you. I sound like I'm teaching.
You're a teacher, so you got to teach, you know. When teachers talk, they talk teaching. You need to hear Therese talk, she'll be teaching as well. So somebody put in there, I think it's Cheryl, I put in there that maybe at some point you could kind of list out the steps for the mindful self-compassion. I remember when you came to MNU, you took the students and the audience through some of the steps. It was really, really cool. You guys know how I like to end my meetings in 1 hour, so we have 13 minutes to go. So let me allow the floor for some of the people that are here. I know that Moray and Sade are here. They were in Nigeria. They've gone to Nigeria with me for some of the trips. And when you and Caleb is on here as well. When you hear all of that, Dr. Gitau, is she still on? Oh yeah, she is. Okay. So what are you thinking? What are you gleaning from this? Or you have any comments and questions? Anybody?
Sean had a hand up.
Any hand up, Lisa? I didn't.
Yes, that's what I want. Yeah. I want either something we can grab a hold of. Okay. You know, because I know right now 6 or 12 people that have different types of trauma. We've taught them the Bible. We've taught them. Many of them are graduates of West Africa Theological Seminary. But this core problem of trauma has not been dealt with.
Okay. Somebody was trying to talk about it.
I wanted to ask a question.
Go ahead.
How do we here in the States support your efforts where you are?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question.
I'm praying while you're speaking, and I'm saying to myself, I don't believe that God makes coincidences. So for me to be involved in this, He has a purpose and a plan. So for us here in the States, what is the best way besides prayer that we can support you?
So do I answer that now, or do I wait for another one?
Go ahead.
So I have told you, like, I have the tools, I have the knowledge, I have the experience of working with such populations, and I like to do what I can. I remember I had given Goris the proposal I had, and even if a part of it can be maybe if I'm able to meet that budget, even if it's not all of it, the minimum maybe I can do, I would really appreciate. So I guess what you're gonna do is to share that proposal. Goris, Shoal is asking whether we can share. So for me, Shoal, if I can be able to have a part or the whole of that budget, I would be the happiest. If I also would love to see you here, any one of you that can make it here to represent our family, you don't have to worry so much, because we wouldn't take you to the horrifying places if your system is not ready. But but we can. We can, maybe you can sit with me, maybe as I train the helpers, the ones that are going to help. You can sit with me, so that we feel that warmth and that energy together, and contribute, especially supporting the less fortunate. I challenged the nation of Kenya when I was on the largest TV station here is called Citizen TV. And I challenged them. I told them, when we had very rich people hit by terrorist bombing in Nairobi, they ran a fundraiser, a very big fundraiser. But now Shakahola is the remote place in eastern coast region of this country. No one is talking about how those people are moving on. Even that one family is overwhelming for me. So far, I have used about maybe just, I would say I've used about 500 US dollars. It's little money, maybe in the US, but yeah, that's huge. And yet there are issues because, like, I had to help put that family in Mombasa for a whole week. Then comes back still giving therapy. I've done a YouTube presentation with her so that we can see whether we can raise funds. No, nothing. Because when it's the rich who are touched, people run. But if it's the poor, it's like there are two types of souls. The one that matters and the one doesn't matter. So if I'm able to do something with you in my country, and finances to me is the biggest challenge. Because I have every other thing running. Like where I'm helping those children, I am having free transport. I am also having free food for the people, volunteers helping me. And where I'm doing it is like 50-60 kilometers from here. It's easy to drive and back. Doesn't use a lot of fuel. It's only exhaustion somebody can get. But those children, I told them, because I sit in that board, we cannot feed them, we cannot make them read books, but we are not building their minds. Because building resilience is one thing. I have read something here, Rise Up Resiliency Center, and my word there is resilience. So you can imagine Africans are naturally resilient because of overcoming many traumas and living with a lot of trauma. But this kind of massacre, I want to tell you, is still a very new experience for Kenyans. And now yesterday it was worse when they were reading, there were sex orgies and child sexual abuse. It's like now everybody's mind is running disarray. So you're thinking about children and what they went through. And I know that can be a bit challenging for all, including the government. Maybe that is what is going to make them do something, because children are so innocent and children don't know anything until somebody hits them badly. So Sean, if we're able to raise that money, if some of you are also able to join me, I'll be very happy. Very happy.
I will ask this. You and I have touched base before on WhatsApp. And Dr. Gitau, I would like to talk to you. I know your schedule is crazy, but I will reach out to you through WhatsApp to see what you've done here in the States to support you where you are. I'm thinking while you're talking about ideas. And so, because, you know, the enemy works to discredit God.
Yes, of course.
In one swoop, he's hurt people, he's put doubt in people, and now he's also discredited God's church.
That's very important.
I'm thinking that it is going to be necessary for Christians, not just the government, but for Christians to step up. So that there are sharp, there are people that are claim to be Christians and are not. And then they need to see that this is what real Christianity looks like.
Absolutely.
Because they can't see the difference if they don't see it. So I have a lot of thoughts going on in my head, and I don't want to take up a lot of time on here. I will WhatsApp you, and then if you could just let me know what sounds good to you and what you think won't work. I've never been to Africa. Sister, I would love to come, but I will say that I can't say that I would know what would be effective. Hey,
just share. That's good. We would definitely be talking about that. Look, if you go to Kenya, you're going to fall in love with it. I mean, I went there, almost didn't come back. So, and I agree with everything you said, and that's why I thought that it was good for Dr. Gitau to talk to us about this stuff, and then we can decide how we want to get involved. I saw my white black sister. Okay, here she is. We were together. We went together with Jules. Jules went to Kenya with us on that trip, and Jules has gone to East Africa like how many times now? 5 times, 4 times, something like that. So she is in love with East Africa. I keep telling her that West Africa is better, but she thinks East Africa is better.
No, don't forget Nigeria.
But anyway,
I would like to come to Kenya.
But guys, before we go, we're going to be talking with Dr. Susan Gitau in the background. Before we go, I wanted to make just one short announcement. We are planning a trip to Israel.
Yay!
Planning a trip to Israel, and actually, the trip to Israel is in March next year. We already have somebody in the ACF, in the Africa Christian Fellowship here, brought the idea up. And it just took fire. I talked to my father-in-law in Africa. He has done this trip to the Holy Land a few times. Now the thing is filling up very fast. If you are interested, let me know, because the numbers are growing very quickly. And Rachel and I are definitely going to be on there. It's going to be March 11th to the 22nd of next year. Everything is already set. I think the amount is $2,950 for the payment. Without that doesn't include the airfare. The airfare is from Kansas City is like $1,100 or something like that. So that's what it is. If you're interested in the Holy Land trip, that one. I felt I should give you the guys this up front, so that if you're interested, let me know. Like I said, the numbers are growing. We are now like almost 30 now, and the cutoff is 55. So again, Dr. Gitau, I cannot thank you enough. Wow. Thank you very, very much. This is just good information. And like I said, if you want to help in any way financially with what is going on in the Shakahola massacre that Dr. Gitau is going to be sending a team down there, I think we should get involved as a group to help them, to help her on the ground, because we cannot go, but we can help her on the ground to send people down to that place. I think it will say something for our organization, but also for Christ, the name of Christ in general. And that's what okay. Any comment from you, Yinka? Therese, are you there? Did Therese leave already? I am also, okay, it's 2 minutes here. Anything else, Dr. Susan Gitau, any final word from you?
Just to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This is going to be, we're going to put this on the website and on WhatsApp, so that if you want to revisit everything that was said here this morning, this will be good.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being a pioneer for this kind of counseling in Kenya. I really, really appreciate it, because it just takes so much courage to be a pioneer. And that's the way I see what you're doing there. And God bless you. I understand some of the issues that you're talking about, especially, fatigue, that compassion fatigue. Mm-hmm. So there's different things. Maybe I'll get Acha to help me know how to apply all that you're saying here. So thank you very much for what you're doing there. Maybe someday I can also be part of a team and come over there.
One last question. Would you be able to put some of the eight steps in the mindful self-compassion on our WhatsApp group? Would you be able to do that?
Yeah, it's okay. I can send like a word. It's maybe a simple guideline. I can.
Yeah.
Simple guideline, that'll be good.
Thank you.
Okay. In the absence of nothing, not another thing. Again, like I said, this is going to be on the website and on WhatsApp. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I know this was, for some of you, was short notice, and thank you for showing up. And for, like I said, we're going to have some of this on the website. They will start talking in the background. If you want to do anything, Dr. Gitau can be. We can access a WhatsApp page or WhatsApp, or you contact me, and they will try to see how we can do to get this going. And then, of course, the Malawi trip, Dr. Susan.